Hello friends, let us now learn some important points about the most important pathway, okay, which is very important actually. So this is hemostasis. Okay, the pathway here is hemostasis. Hemostasis is whenever we have a cut, we will bleed and then there will be clot formation. The process of clot formation is hemostasis. So first what happens? First there will be injury to the vascular endothelium. Then this will result in transient vasoconstriction because of endothelin. Because of the endothelin released by the vascular endothelium, this will cause transient vasoconstriction. So whenever there is transient vasoconstriction, this will alter the blood flow, thus causing turbulence and stasis. Right now, this transient vasoconstriction because of endothelins will release tissue factor. Okay, this will release tissue factor. Here the injured cells, there will be release of tissue factor, and this tissue factor will activate the factor 7, which is an extrinsic pathway. This will activate the factor 7, that is extrinsic pathway. Or there can be in the injured cells there will be exposure of subendothelial collagen, which will activate factor 12. When factor 7 is activated due to tissue factors, it is extrinsic pathway. When factor 12 is activated due to subendothelial collagen, it is intrinsic pathway. So what is happening? First and foremost, there is endothelial cells are present. These will release von Willebrand factor, which along with exposed collagen, this will combine with exposed collagen, and this von Willebrand factor on the exposed collagen, this von Willebrand factor, if you see, this will combine. See, this is the breakage or injury, and this is the exposed collagen. Now the von Willebrand factor, which is present on the endothelial cell, it will now bind with the platelets with the help of the receptor glycoprotein 1b present on the platelets. Now once the von Willebrand factor binds to the platelets, now the platelets undergo conformational change. That is, there is change in shape of the platelets, and also the platelets will release the granules called as degranulation of platelets. So now the platelets will release this process of von Willebrand factor binding with glycoprotein 1b. So this is von Willebrand factor. Okay, this is the platelet. Now this is the glycoprotein 1b. So von Willebrand factor binding with this glycoprotein 1b is called platelet adhesion. Now there is conformational change of platelets. The platelets have undergone change in this shape. Now the platelets will release granules. Alpha granules are released, which include P-selectin, fibrinogen, fibronectin, factor 5 and 7, platelet factor 4, and platelet derived growth factor, and also transforming growth factor beta. All these are released. Then we have in other granules delta granules. Delta granules are also released, like ADP, ATP, ionized calcium, histamine, serotonin, and epinephrine are released. So all these, when they are released, these will cause release of some other factors. These alpha and delta granules, which are released from the platelets, will in turn activate the release of some other factors. Before that, there will be, whenever there is vascular endothelial injury, there will be release of inhibitors of plasminogen activator that will inhibit plasminolysis, and that will decrease antithrombotic factors. So as a result, there is increased clot formation or thrombotic factors. So all these will again causes release of calcium, ADP. They will also cause release of surface expression of phospholipids complexes. They will cause surface expression of phospholipid complexes, which will activate coagulation cascade. Now coagulation cascade has been activated. Now platelets will also release thromboxane A2, which is a vasoconstrictor which will activate platelet aggregation. Now what is platelet aggregation? Here in platelet aggregation, platelets bind to each other by glycoprotein 2b3a. So this is the von Willebrand factor on the endothelial cells. Now this will bind to the platelet by GP1b receptor, GP glycoprotein 1b receptor. Now two platelets are bound to each other by glycoprotein 2b3a receptors. Glycoprotein 2b3a receptors. So this is platelet aggregation. Now we have to learn about the coagulation cascade. The last step of all these processes is activation of coagulation cascade. Now in the coagulation cascade, we have two different factors. One, we have intrinsic pathway. Second, we have extrinsic pathway. So in intrinsic pathway, there is injury of blood vessels. This injury of blood, whenever there is injury of blood vessels, factor 12 activates factor 12, then this will activate factor 11, and which in turn activates factor 9 along with factor 8 and calcium. It will activate factor 10. This factor 10, activated factor 10 along with calcium, activates prothrombin to thrombin. Okay, this prothrombin to thrombin is activated. This thrombin will convert fibrinogen to fibrin. This fibrin undergoes cross-linking to form the blood clot. This fibrin cross-linking is activated by fibrin stabilizing factor. So that is intrinsic pathway. Then if you see the extrinsic pathway, in this the tissue factor will activate factor 8. This activated factor 8 along with factor 8 and calcium, activated factor 7 along with factor 8 and calcium will activate factor 10. So this is extrinsic and intrinsic pathways which are important. At the end, they result in formation of stable clot. Now we will have to learn about the some of the times. Prothrombin time. Prothrombin time is seen in extrinsic and common coagulation pathway. Prothrombin time evaluates extrinsic and common coagulation pathway. Normal prothrombin time is 12 to 16 seconds. Activated partial thromboplastin time will actually evaluate intrinsic and common coagulation pathway. The normal activated partial thromboplastin time equals 26 to 34 seconds. Then we have the thrombin time. Thrombin time thrombin time will evaluate the conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin. This thrombin time mainly depends upon the adequate fibrinogen levels. It depends upon the conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin, and it depends upon the fibrinogen levels. Then we have bleeding time. Bleeding time is the amount of time that the person bleeds. That is, bleeding is stopped by the constriction of blood vessels. So this bleeding time will test the ability of blood vessels to constrict and form a hemostatic plug. Then fibrin degradation products. Fibrin degradation products are used to assess fibrinolytic activity, and these fibrin degradation products will increased in DIC, disseminated intravascular coagulation. Now, what are the anticoagulant substances which will stop this coagulation pathway? 1. Antithrombin 3 inhibits thrombin. Factor 12 activated factor 12, activated factor 11, 10 and 9A. And heparin or heparin-like molecules activate this antithrombin 3 and block the coagulation pathway. leading to bleeding. Protein C and protein S are vitamin K dependent, and they will inhibit activated factor 5 and factor 8. Endothelial prostacyclin and nitric oxide causes vasodilatation and inhibit platelet aggregation. Tissue factor pathway inhibitors. These tissue factor pathway inhibitor also inhibits factors 7A and 10A. Endothelium will activate this tissue factor pathway inhibitor, which in turn inhibits factor 8 activated and activated 10 factor. Thrombomodulin combines with thrombin and activates protein C, which will in turn inhibit factor 7 and factor 8, has already discussed. So these are the anticoagulant substances. See, we have to remember what are the different anticoagulant substances and what do they inhibit. So it is a list. I know it's difficult to remember, but thank you for watching.